All right, welcome to Zoom into Wine. My name is Ian Blackburn. I run learnaboutwine.com, and I'm the wine buyer for Merchant of Wine, where we host Zoom into Wine Zooms every Wednesday, getting some great people together around some amazing wines. And this week is no exception. We are talking about top Rieslings. I was so excited that we were able to get a full audience tonight. We sold all our sample kits. And so we have a nice group. Some people are unable to join us live, but they're going to be watching the video, which is what we do. We get the kits to you, and you can taste these wines for the next couple of days with great freshness and taste along. If you're not tasting and you're just watching the video, welcome. This is our weekly show every Wednesday night around 7 o'clock. We come on live. I say around because it usually takes me a couple of minutes to get on to Facebook Live. Tonight was a little more difficult, and I'm actually doing it on my homepage, my own personal page, because I couldn't get Learn About Wine to take the video. But welcome. I hope you guys enjoy our show. We've got participants that means they are actually part of the show, and they can make comments and come on and say anything they want, be obnoxious if you like, taste the wines. If you don't want to say anything live, you can just put a little comment and I'll read them in the chat box. These wines are chat worthy for sure. And I hope you really enjoy the lineup that we put together. We're always looking at quality, not always the cheapest wines in the world, but sometimes the best. And that's okay to err on the side of great. We'll do that a few times here. I'm going to get rid of my virtual background. Just not having the greatest technology day. Been having some mouse problems too. I think it's time for a new mouse. Poor mouse has probably been clicked to death. But let's get into our show. It's called Top Riesling. And this is
Ian, could I ask you
sure.
something before we start here? First of all, I hate your hat, since I can be honest.
You've always told me you hate my hats when they're not blue.
No, I hated it anyway, no matter what color it is.
Giant. All right.
Several of these wines appear to have like pebbles in them or something.
I included a marble.
It's a marble, okay?
Yeah.
Is there a reasoning behind that?
I'm going to tell you about that for sure.
Okay, perfect. I'll be patient. Yeah. All right. There we go.
So first, let me just click through the slides really quick and show you the order. We're going to be going from New York. We're going to go to then the Rheingau. A lot to talk about here. We've got, then we're going to taste our Mosel Kabinett, the Wallufer Goldgrube. When we do our heroes zooms, we hire an artist. She makes little labels that kind of help us out a little bit. These are just numbered jars. So this is number 4. It's Hexamer. And this is a Rheingrafenberg. So lots to cover. Number 5, we'll be going with the SA Prüm. This is an Auslese, state bottled. That's also a Gross Lager. Talk about that. Talk about where these wines come from, all that lingo. Trimbach, Alsace, one of the greatest wines of its place, will finish tonight. This is the Cuvée Frederic Emile. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over some pretty big topicality in Riesling. When we make the kits, the bottles of Riesling always come up just a little bit short of 750 milliliters. I'm not sure why. to take up a little extra headspace in the jar, we're using a neutral stone, if you will, with the marble. It's an experiment. I'm trying to make sure that the jars are as full as possible. I was a little underwhelmed with how much volume they took up. I was hoping it would raise the level enough to get it to the lip, but the idea is to get the jar as full as we can. Now my jar is missing a lot. That's because I tasted through them. But when we deliver them, we try to put that wine into the neck of the jar. And so the marble was trying to get us there. And so I'll refer back and see what you thought of the marble, if it helped or not. It's neutral. It's been cleaned with the same hot water wash that we clean the jars with, and shouldn't pass on any odor or color or anything into the wine. Reminiscent of a couple of wineries that have done some similar things with their tank space, trying to take up the head space of a wine when we're putting them in these little tasting jars. They're pretty large jars, and they're well over 2 ounces. So just needed to have enough wine to get everybody a kit, and that was the solution that we put in. We're going to go to our slideshow here in just a minute, but I want you to get a little wine in your glass. We're just going to cover a couple little parts of business tonight. You know, when we send out the tasting kits, we're putting some great wines in the jar, and tonight's topic is Riesling. We go from Alsace to Germany and different parts of Germany tonight. We also actually include upstate New York Riesling. There's other places that we could have involved, but really made this list pretty spectacular. If this was a wine list in a restaurant, a Riesling list, I think it would be pretty reasonable that this is probably a better Riesling list than almost any restaurant has at the current time, unless you are a Riesling house. And there are some great Riesling restaurants, but this is a wine that people that love wine are pretty united in their fight for Riesling. It is a really food-friendly wine. You can take this out with almost any type of food, and really have a great experience. The food can be very amplified by these wines. They also typically have fairly reserved alcohol levels, and you could drink quite a bit of these over a night's time. And some of them range between 8, 9, 10% in alcohol level, as opposed to a regular bottle of wine being about 14.5 to 16.5 if you're drinking Paso Robles. Let me get the slideshow involved, and here we go. All right, so I'm going to say a lot of things tonight, a lot of little words about the regions, the places, the wine laws. We'll comment, we'll go in and out of those a little bit. If there's anything I say that you want to question, please ask a question. Love to have questions, love to have you involved. Let's go to our first wine. This is Hillick and Homes. This is from Seneca Lake. We're in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes area. Jokingly, I'd like to tell you this is the middle finger of the Finger Lakes. It is the Seneca Lake AVA, but the Finger Lakes are over here. So maybe Seneca Lake's giving the Finger Lakes the AVA, the middle finger. I'm not sure how that joke was supposed to go, but they are like fingers, aren't they? The fact is that in this part of the world, we've got incredible stony minerality, and in where we grow great Riesling, we find that kind of minerality. We have in the Mosel, we have slate that makes the wines really interesting. And in the Finger Lakes area, and Finger Lakes AVA, we have also some slate. And so that makes it that was not just, that was like, oh, we have slate, let's go Riesling. And that seemed to work out. A lot of stony minerality, different types of dirt involved as well, different types of stone, a little melange of different characteristics, but some slate is found throughout. And Paul Hobbs, who's a notoriously great winemaker, grew up in upstate New York. In fact, his family grew apples, and he'll tell you a story about how he was taught as a kid to appreciate the different flavors and characteristics of each of the breeds of apple. And he could bite into an apple and tell you which breed it was. In fact, he could tell you what part of the ranch it came from. And that's where he got his insights on minerality and characteristics of slope and altitude and exposure and all the things that go into making wine and understanding why certain things work and certain things don't. Now, Hobbs has a way of bringing really beautiful things together. This is a pretty modest zone. They don't make a lot of wine, but if he's going to put his name on it, he's going to make it beautiful. He's going to do it right. And it's a really fun and beautiful site to see. That's Hillick and Holmes. That's in Lake Seneca area. This says it was the inaugural vintage, but I'm not so sure that that is true about this particular wine. This is the 2019, and this is known as a dry Riesling. Now, dry means absence of sugar. And when we smell this wine, there might even be some characteristics that maybe start to get you thinking sweet. But wine, especially dry wines, don't have any sweetness left. Dry means zero or very close to it. There's another category known as off dry, and we're going to move into that pretty quickly today. And then we have sweet. And so there's going to be a range of different options that we're going to taste tonight. I think sweet means bad to a lot of people. When you taste wines at this quality level, a little bit of sweetness is really, really enjoyable. When you taste cheap wines with sweetness, that's where they taste cheap. These will not. These are exceptional. You can see the exposure, the beauty of the place. Imagine the breezes coming off of that lake feature. Very cool diurnal range, warm days, cool nights. Shape this wine, 100% Riesling. There's a very gentle perfume on this wine. It's fairly restrained, but being dry. Alcohol here is 12.5. So they pick pretty aggressively, not getting it overripe, not doing any vintage tardif, nothing late harvest. 12.5 is pretty restrained. Getting things like ginger and white peach, a little bit of the classic Riesling markers, some pineapple, perhaps some passion fruit and other types of fruit accents. But this being dry, the restraint is there. And this does not show some of the other aromatics. It's not heavy in petrol. Maybe a kiss of it if you think to look of it, but I think of it more of a stony minerality. I think there's a lot of also some granite and some schist in these soils. So there's quite a melody of soils and rock elements, and the fruit is embracing that, penetrating into the soil, extracting the moisture, getting fed by the soil and the sunshine, and the yeast that were used that are alive and active in the vineyards may be the transmitters of where some of this minerality is coming from. We are trying to figure out, does the soil feed the grape the characteristic? Because for a long time we thought that those those roots were digging up this information and downloading it into the grape. That's always what I was told. That's always what I thought. But now we're wondering if it's instead of that information coming from the root system of the vine, that it's actually the airborne yeast, the yeast that are in the vineyards, and they are passing on the minerality. And that's a very interesting idea. Science has not quite been able to nail it, but the highborns in the Riesling world are talking about that at this time, and wine in general. 94 points on this wine. I'd love to get your thoughts. It's a great way to start. Just a nice, dry, solid, well-made, classic. It is dry. Now, Tom, I've noticed for the second week in a row, looks like you're working in an office area. Is that an office space? I saw some signage in the background.
No, it's just something my company allows us to do on Zoom. I think I changed it to a blurred
Okay.
Zoom, so it's all good. A little advertising for my
Ah,
company, but there you go.
okay.
Um,
I thought
and I was super surprised to learn this was from New York after smelling it. I was like, oh, gotta be European with that nose and so on. Really, an amazing bottle of wine, actually, in my opinion.
Paul Hobbs is really good at what he does, and he was absolutely trained for all over the world and has great respect for each place.
Yeah.
But I really think that a place like the Finger Lakes was developed with a very old world sensibility as a appellation, and they went about it in a very quality way. Now, most of the wines that are grown and made there are not very well distributed. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And you can thank New York for a lot of that, because New York is really tough to do business with. So,
Yeah.
guess what? Every state makes it tough for New York. And it's an expensive place to ship because New York gets paid on every case that comes in. So, guess what? Every case that comes out of New York gets a little bit more expensive. Now, Hobbs being the name, Hobbs has a great marketing team. His business is so well built, and he's got experts at every level. And we've had the Hobbs team on our Zooms and many times, but they have a person in almost every marketplace helping with the entire Hobbs portfolio. And if you don't know who Paul Hobbs is, look him up. He is a predominant Napa Valley cab producer, making some of the highest scoring wines in the Napa Valley. I happen to think his greatest touch comes with Pinot Noir, but you can't argue with his cabs. They're so good. And then you go to Argentina, and his Malbec program and Los Cobos program are world class. And they makes one of the greatest Cab Francs down there. And then he's got wineries in Armenia and Spain. So he is worldwide. This is one of the biggest names in high quality wine, not high volume wine. And I think he's built a really wonderful life. I know he has to work hard, but he's not making that much wine. He's making it really good. His prices are in touch with the quality in the marketplace. And at $34 to have a really nice, high quality, dry Seneca Lake wine being able to be distributed throughout the United States, that's where he sells this wine. I think this is a really good reference. And he, always makes wines that he can be proud of. Perfume on that is just so pretty. It's got a really I'm smelling a little. I just cooked with some ginger the other day, making some Indian food, and so the smell of ginger was just everywhere on my clothes, on my fingers, and as I'm it makes a really intense flavor profile when you add it at the quantity that we went for. It makes it spicy and biting and dramatic. And I'm getting the smell of ginger in the nose of this wine, and I would really have loved to have had this bottle of wine with my Indian food. And that is going to be my suggestion for this particular offering tonight. Maybe some butter chicken would be a great reference that everybody can find. And if you are in Los Angeles, Badmash is my Indian choice. I particularly like the restaurant on Fairfax. The food there is quite delicious. I'm a big fan of the ghost pepper vindaloo as well. We're going to move into wine number 2. I think that first wine kind of gets us moving, gets the juices flowing. I know it does for me. I've had just an incredibly great week, but working my butt off. We are going to do a really significant event here in Los Angeles in about a month, and I'll be talking about it in a little bit, but it's going to be pretty all-consuming, and I'm happy. I'm really gone light on my calendar to be able to do this big event in the proper way, but we are working so hard. So we move into our second wine, and I'm so happy to be able to taste this with you. J.B. Becker. This is from the Rheingau. The bottle that she's got there is just the label's just a little bit different. Looking at that bottle, it looks like that's an older label. The wine I have 2019. That's what we're drinking. Wallufer Berg Bildstock. Now they used to put the ER at the end of the name. So this would probably have been Wallufer Burger, to let you know. I'm seeing the ER there before the Riesling Kabinett, so I'm wondering what the story was with that. And somebody with incredible, German heritage would probably be able to tell me. But Wallufer Berg Bildstock, that's going to be the name of our vineyard designation. This is in the Rheingau. Rheingau, very close to the Mosel, the Nahe, the Pfalz, and the Rheinheisen. These are all amazing places where Riesling thrives, and they each have a little different story to tell. Now, a lot of them have little names that kind of symbolize the gardens, the spice garden, the herb garden, the wine garden. This producer has a great reputation. What we're tasting tonight being Kabinett, meaning made for the cabinet. Kind of the young wine. You pick these first. You go through and do several pickings. You might leave some fruit in a nice vintage for some of the later harvest styles like Auslese and Baron Auslese. You might even go for the ice wine category, very rare. But these levels that we're discussing, basically they have rules that are promoted, rules that are followed by the predicate system. Kabinett is the young first harvest, and the style of the Kabinett can range from dry. You can have a Trocken style. You can make just a Kabinett that's kind of appealing, crispy, fresh, and you'll see some different sweetness levels. I think we're tasting 2 different Kabinetts today. This one's going to be a little brighter, a little fresher, a little lighter on its feet. That's kind of what you expect from the Rheingau. Love the nose here. Super cool. Super, again, restraint, elegant. Alcohol on the back label from this producer gives me a range because that's what they are required. They're not necessarily required to put the alcohol level on the front label. Some of them do. I guess it says 11 on the front label, but on the back label it says 11 to 13. So they pick these pretty early. They tend to make these in stainless steel tanks. And the style of this house is that he's really in a hurry to get through fermentation, but then he slows it way down and puts things away into slow containers, big wood vessels, to let them slowly age at very cold temperatures for a long period of time. I bought this 19 about a year ago, so it's pretty current and vintage. But the color you can see does have a little bit of advancement. That's what they're looking for. Gosh, this just makes my mouth salivate thinking about the different types of foods and spices and things that you could play with. There's a little bit more of a honey element on the nose here, but you're going to see this isn't that sweet. Really refined, really pretty, delicate, almost tender. Kind of tickles your taste buds a little bit. And man, this is so great with food. I don't even think you need, I think this is really going to be awesome with that delicacy with some very refined food, a wonderful fish restaurant. Um, just name any type of fish dish. Maybe it's a carpaccio, maybe it's ceviche style. Um, I wouldn't necessarily need any kind of heavy sauce here, just something very pretty, fresh, delicate, steamed fish. Um, that's what I'm thinking as I smell this gorgeous, beautiful single vineyard wine. House has great reputation, established in 1893. Here's a look at our site. I was standing right down there at one point in time, touring this area. Um, these waterways are, this is the way business and commerce were. This is why these wines were so popular back in the day, because they were accessible, because the world drank sweeter styled wines. The world was dominated by sweeter style wines back in the 1800s. And as we entered into the 1900s and then the 2000s, we continue to see the wine market drying out. And I'll bet money that back in 1893, when they were making this wine, this was a sweeter style. But this Kabinett is barely, I mean, it is dry and it is gorgeous. And I love how delicate it is. And this bottle, this what's cool, and I can't show it to you because we promptly opened these bottles and threw the glass cap closure away. But they use the perfume glass cap because he doesn't want that cork to interfere with the beautiful aromatics, that freshness, that liveliness. And I love the ideas that he's, and you can totally make sense when you taste the wine. Fast fermentations, which are healthy and active, and then you put these wines in, instead of like 50 different tanks, you're going to put it in one big tank. So the oak this doesn't really create any kind of character on the wine. They're old, big wood tanks, and he just lets it sit there at cool temperatures, and character kind of comes with a little bit of oxidation, a little bit of evaporation, and a little bit more concentration. And I love the way it lays out in the glass here. Really cool, really pretty. This wine is totally a deal. It is made organically. Here's a look at that cellar. 130-year-old cellar. Old wood. It still works well. It doesn't have much flavor profile. In fact, um, they certainly clean out the barrels, but there's so much acid in these wines. I bet the tartrates are just lining the inside of these barrels. And so very little wood contact, just a little bit. 31 bucks. It's a great wine. It's got 10 plus more years of development. You can drink these wines for a surprisingly long period of time. But wow, is this drinking great right now? And really, really pretty. Some of you might be looking for a little bit more thunder. This is definitely like soft dew in the air, really tender and delicate. And this is not thunder. This is not lightning. But great with some nice music and maybe like some opera, something something like that to give you a little bit of drama. The event that we've been working on is called Stars of Pinot, and I know some of you are outside of the LA area, but this would be an event, not an excuse for you to come and see me in person. We are going to be taking over a great restaurant space called Tess, and it is on Sunset Boulevard. We do quite a few tastings there. It's a very taste-friendly location. It's a great, beautiful space right on Sunset and La Cienega next to Fred Siegel. A beautiful build out on the restaurant. The food is really good. It's a modern space. It's very wine friendly. And we're going to take over the entire restaurant. We're going to have somewhere in between 200 and 300 people in the room, tasting with about 40 different Pinot producers now. And wow, is the wine list getting exciting and great. We just got Red Car on today, Dragonette, um, Westwood. There's so many great brands, and many of them are listed on the website, except for those three, because they just came on today. But wow, it's becoming like an embarrassment of riches of great Pinot Noir, mostly from California. But we have Bouchard Perifee coming in from Burgundy, and some nice Oregon producers coming down. Someone from New Zealand. And so it's going to be a great gathering. And by the way, if you make Pinot, you're probably making Chardonnay. So we'll have a little bit of Chardonnay in the house too. We're working on possibly still having a sparkling component join us as well. But the Pinots have taken over. I mean, we have so many great Pinot producers. I don't need any other wines really. We have almost too many. It'll be 100 wines for 200 to 300 people to taste. That's a ridiculous number because all the wines will be there in quantity, endless pours, whatever you want to taste. And in 2 weeks, Eduardo is going to be joining us for a killer sake session. These are not your average sake. They are the super elegant, high-end, the artists of the sake universe. There's not a lot of spaces left. If you want to join us, please do so soon. If we got to sold out by Friday, I might add another bottle of each wine, but it's like $400 worth of sake that we're going to be opening for this event. So I'll have to see if we can do that. But it's going to be awesome. Eduardo is a genius, and you're going to really appreciate him. Speaks perfect Japanese, French, Spanish, Italian. He's too smart. I hate him. Let's go to wine number 3. Wallufer Goldgrube. Also a Kabinett. But now we move into the Mosel. Vollenweider is the name of the producer, Daniel. And Wolfer Goldgrube is the name of the vineyard. 2020, I bought a lot of this wine. In 2021, I bought some more in 22. I just bought another round because they still have it. This producer kind of only makes this one wine. It's what they do. Let me tell you, the German Mosel Riesling market is dominated by a couple of very famous brands. And if you're not one of those famous brands, you probably don't have any distribution. And for that reason, a lot of these family, small, teeny producers are going away. They're not selling, they're just closing and abandoning their wineries and their vineyards. This family tends their own vineyard super steep. Like tie a rope around your waist and lower yourself down into the vineyard. They're a husband and wife. They've been making some great wine. The importer stocked up on this. I mean, it's not a problem to be drinking 2020 Riesling in 2024. This wine probably just keeps getting better. But it is saying something that the importer still had some 2020. But this is what they do. They're singular wine reference. So I'm sure they make Spätlese in a small amount, but it's all from their vineyard. And this didn't get started all that long ago. But he basically caught the bug after tasting one of the great legends. The producer's name is Egon Müller. Great wines. And if you fall in love with Egon Müller, that's like drinking Domaine Romanée-Conti Burgundy and saying you love Burgundy now. Egon Müller is one of the great namesakes of all Riesling. They have a total of 4.8 hectares. 4.8 planted of 7.5 that they own. And there's the name on the side. You can, as you're floating down the river, the Mosel, you look up and you'll see the name of the vineyard. Beautiful small Weingut or winery. Great location, great exposition, great neighbors. You know that the quality is right there. Look at that, how steep that is. One of the things that you can also appreciate is, look, every vine has its own cane. This mono cane type of trellising is there to eliminate the shadows that a vineyard that's growing and stretching its arms out like this would create. So they grow it straight up. And vines are natural crawlers, so they're going to crawl up all the way to the top of the cane. It's magnificent. $35. Let's taste this bad boy. I got some more notes here. Old vines. One of the best locations, one of the oldest collection of vines. pretty good swath of residual in this Kabinett. This is the style of this house. Now, the reason that you would have this type of sweetness is to balance the wine. And the example we always give is, what if you made lemonade from lemons and didn't have any sugar? How enjoyable would the lemonade be? Uh, so you want to have a little bit of sweetness there. Their style really promotes that white peach. They say candied lime zest. Love that. Like a tonic, like a gin and tonic kind of a nose. Insane tension. That's a great description here. Right now, your mouth, if you just put wine in your mouth, you're feeling like your taste buds are exploding. That acidity just dried your mouth right out. There was that sensation of like peaches and sweet ripe fruit, and then zip, that acidity just erased it from your mouth, leaving you refreshed. That's the job of this wine. It is so good at doing it, but no one's heard of this producer. You have to be turned on to this wine to have discovered it. And that's the challenge for us. I can't recommend this wine more. I love it. I've loved it. And it's drinking as good, maybe better now than ever. I probably still have 36 bottles. But I tend to buy it 50, 60 bottles at a time, 5 cases at a time. And uh, it's like, oh, I'm going to the Hollywood Bowl. Let me take a Riesling and a red. Oh, I'm going to my friend's house for barbecue. Let me take a Riesling and a Zin. Oh, I drink a lot of Riesling, and this wine, everybody drinks this wine says, well, I usually don't like Riesling, but I like this one. This is good. And that's an incredible ambassador right there. I hope you agree and enjoy that. Love to tune in and see what you guys think. Setsuko is joining us in Japan. Sandra Conklin, good to have you. Elizabeth, thank you. Rex, you tasting these wines? Hope you like that, Rex. Thomas, what did you think?
It's so first of all, quite a contrast with the Rheingau. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like an explosion of flavor. I was trying to describe myself why I was getting that little bit of burnt sugar sensation. And I guess that's the lime zest that they're talking about coming in. But it was really enjoyable, really super wine, and I feel bad for them that they don't get more recognition.
Yeah, it's almost a little sad. And the fact is that these prices haven't moved in 20 years, Tom.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, even in the inflationary world that we're in, this is like the same price that I mean, this level of wine just is being forgotten about.
yeah.
Maybe that will help it though. It's kind of like, a bad stock. Maybe all the bad news is in, and this is the time to grab some. I think Riesling, I mean, this is the wine. If somebody called me and said, Ian, I'm going to have some spicy Thai food or spice foods, this would be the one.
Shanghai Chinese, something like
Totally. Totally.
Szechuan, rather. Yeah, Szechuan Chinese.
If I could just say, again on my soap, I'll stay on the soapbox for a little while because I live at our warehouse here is in Monterey Park, California, home of more Asian people live in this marketplace than probably anywhere in Southern California. And there's great Asian restaurants everywhere. And I walk into all of them and they've all got a bottle of California Cab on the table.
So it sells.
It is, and it's a shame because the food does not marry with Cabernet. I'm sorry. You might like the taste of Cab, But if you want to do the food right, this is it. This is your pairing. And it's, 1/10 of the price of a bottle of Napa Cab that you're drinking, because they're pounding the Opus one and the Camus reserves there. And good for you. You got money, and I know you love to show it, but show something about great food and wine pairing, and embrace this wine, because this would be so much better with your Asian spice foods. Um, eh, Not everybody, what they can drink whatever the hell they want. They don't have to listen to me. But this is really, I'm probably just speaking to crying to the believers here.
When I order wine like this at an Asian restaurant and I'm around other people who are not plugged in like that, they're always looking at me like I'm crazy. And it's like, man, there's it's such a better pairing from this. This is perfect with the spicy Asian food. I love this one. It's really good.
Cool.
Explosion of both the nose and the flavors is just really incredible.
Get your mouth rocking. And this bottle, I think I mentioned the alcohols on the others, 8.5 alcohol. You could drink this at work, not get in trouble. All right. We move into our next wine. So my friend Jared Hooper, who this is one of his favorite producers, Hexamer, or as he would call it, Sexy Hexy. Meddersheimer. And check out, this is maybe one of the reasons why the Chinese don't buy German Riesling. I think it could be an amazing reality show to watch Chinese family try to pronounce Meddersheimer Rheingrafenberg. That's hard for me. That's a lot of R's. We're in the Nahe. We're going into different soils. Spätlese. It's the very next predicate after Kabinett, Spätlese, Auslese, and so on. A little bit more Uxla. Must weight of the sugar. They harvest, they count, they measure the weight of the sugar. They use the math, the German math, to make sure that the fermentations come out correct. They know with this much acid and this much sugar, this is the point where our wines will be the best. Nahe, right next to the Pfalz, right next to the Rheinheisen. Pretty close to the heart of the entire German wine industry. Not always the first place you think of, but man, there's so many cool small producers in the Nahe. It's really, really awesome. Check out this cellar. Super cold, super underground, super efficient. Teeny. Harald Hexamer. How cool a name is that? They have 7.5 hectares, so about just light of 20 acres. Super steep. Soils a little different, a little less rocky. But it's kind of has this really cool softness to the wine, freshness to the fruit. We're looking at lower quantities of yields per hectare. That's how they're elevating the quality, making the vines make less fruit. cold fermentations, keeping it slow, keeping the fruit fresher, whole cluster pressing. So that's kind of cool. You're not destemming the fruit, you're whole cluster pressing it. Stainless steel. I think you can almost smell when people do whole cluster pressing a little bit of that stem in the glass here. That brightness is so like crystalline fruit with just that little bit of herbal sensation coming through. Oh, Magic Land. Beautiful. False. A note of petrol. I'm pretty petrol. I have not been knocked down by petrol aromas, but if you look for them, you tend to find them. Like it's like if you're when you were a kid, smelling that model glue for the first time, you're like, don't know if I should smell. That's pretty good. And then or maybe just fill up the gas pump a little bit. You get a little bit of that, but this is it's just a kiss here. Where apples and pears merge. I think that's kind of a cool way to think of it. Here they talk about peach, mango, citrus. James gets to the essence very quickly. 92 points, James Suckling. This is the only wine so far that's been under screw cap, which is interesting. We had one glass cap, two corks, and now the Stelvin enclosure. You can see those soils. There's definitely some material that's making up the kind of the redness of the soil. Rock, decomposed granite, probably. Kind of all of them are so far in that same price range within a buck or two. Kind of trapped there. Single vineyard, great site, great producer, a little different style. I really wanted to show off and kind of go from, New York to Rheingau to Mosel to Nahe. Totally different winemaking and also blending ideas, residual sugar ideas. This should be the sweetest of the three. 8.5 alcohol, though. This does have that kind of almost cling peach. So, just oh, so sumptuous. And I, I I love biting into this glass of wine. I think, that sweetness is there. Some people are going to be like, "Oh, that one's too far for me. That one's too sweet." But just feel how your mouth dries out. That's not a cheap sensation. That's a revelation in how acidity works and how the they capture that fruit bowl that's so deep and rich. I mean, this is such a wonderful moment as I walk into the grocery stores and they are full of all these beautiful fruits, farmers markets, and they actually start to smell good. Um, and taste really good about this moment. You got any kind of stone fruit, whether it's peach or plumot. They're coming in right now, and they're just beautiful, and you can find all of those flavors in this glass of Riesling. Let's continue. Wine number 5, S.A. Prüm. I got to go here when I visited the Mosel. I got to hang out with Mr. Prüm in the Mosel. He drove me around, showed me some things, took me to a wonderful restaurant. We sat there, just appreciated the atmosphere and the energy. He has some really important vineyards in some important places, but that was the building. And they actually have some guest rooms that you can rent in the back building on top of the wine storage. I remember this room. This is his tasting room. And this is the Prüm family. Um, he's got cousins and aunts, and there's a lot of Prüms. But the current generation is Raymond Prüm, wonderful man, wonderful leader, and this winery is just continuing to be kind of ascend. Some wineries are going away. Some wineries are getting bigger because they're buying up their competitors, and big companies own some of these guys. And in fact, some of the Prüms own a lot of land. But S.A. Prüm, this is a smaller producer. Who's bringing him in now? It is Taub, and they've grown a lot as a company. Meticulous, meticulous, meticulous. Um, Perfect conditions for aging. These large oak tanks. Now, we just had the Hexamer Spätlese from the Nahe. Now we're having a Spätlese from Sonnenuhr, the sundial. Very famous site. 94 points by Falstaff, a reputable point scoring reviewing website. Nose is a lot drier here. Super perfumed. Citrus, passion fruit, minerality. That spot right there. And slate galore, pink and blue. Now, slate is this super brittle, like it's basically compressed shale. And it has a lot of jobs. It reflects sunlight. It's very not porous, but it's kind of layered. And so water can actually get into those layers. And so it kind of has multiple jobs. It reflects the light, preserves some heat for the ground, and also kind of hides some water. And it provides that minerality for the wine. And we definitely jumped up in price and in reputation of the vineyards and the house. This is what $70 tastes like. This is Auslese. You know what? This says Spätlese on the bottle. We're drinking the Spätlese. Let's see if that was a mistake by my designer or by my wine team. I gotta find out. We go to Merchant of Wine. We look at Germany. The Spätlese at 49 bucks. Same vineyard. Not sure. Oh, there it is. We had the Auslese also. So my wine team pulled the wrong bottle, everybody. But that's what we're all drinking. We're drinking the $49 Prüm Wehlener Schonener, same vineyard. That's where it's got the gross lager on the label, VDPQ, gross lager. Spätlese. Auslese is the next level up in sweetness. And Spät, I thought we were drinking Spät all the way across, but on the website, I guess we were supposed to go to Auslese, so I apologize. But you can see that the packaging is almost identical, and just that word changed from Spätlese to Auslese. And the price changes because Spätlese, you're getting a lot less fruit, a lot less volume. And when you're leaving your fruit out to ripen a little bit further and shrivel, you get a lot of loss. So your costs go up drastically to make Auslese. And that's when you're gonna start to see some botrytis notes. This is still pretty fresh. I didn't catch the botrytis, and now I know why. Apologize for the air. Did everybody see all that? Are you guys still looking at my website? Did I take that down? I'm going to bring the slideshow back. Oops. Sorry about that. I think in the many years that I've done this, I've never had us open the wrong bottle before. So that's a new one for the books. But a pretty easy mistake to make. And it's kind of why in my store, I don't like to carry, and this is exactly the example, Spätlese and Auslese. It's not something I normally do, but I really needed some Spätlese for the website. And in order to get it, I had to buy some Auslese. And this is what happens when you have them both. And my crew is young, hardworking people, and I didn't notice it myself. I tasted the wines, but she buys them by the she pulls them off by the photos, and she does a great job 99.9% of the time. We're going to go to our last wine number 6. No mistake here. We are going to taste one of the great wines of the Riesling world. This is from the House of Trimbach, called Frederic Emile. And I had the opportunity to pick up some 2016 recently. I think the current vintage is like 18 or 19. But when you can go back on a wine like this and get it at a wonderful price, that's a great opportunity because this wine needs some time. This one's made differently. We're not in Germany anymore, although they speak more German than French in Alsace. It is right on the German border. It is very close to the Mosel and the Rhine, and you're going to basically see the people there live very German-like lives. Alsace, however, is a much different growing zone. It's got a lot of altitude. The water features aren't as influential, and stylistically, the wines are a huge departure. They definitely pick typically more riper fruit and make drier style wines without the residual sugar. They tend to make them a little more oxidatively, allowing them to age at a really slow pace and for very long periods of time. And this is a wine that you would love to be able to drink when it's 20 years old. Almost 10 years old now, 2016, from the House of Trimbach. 13 generations. Does it say on their label? It usually says right on the front, established in 1626. And what's crazy about that is that there's about 5 others they're all duking it out for who was there first. 26, 29, 36. Some of them were there, but they weren't actually winemakers until later. But the family's been there, and it's all semantics. They're all trying to, be able to say they were the oldest family, the first family, whatever. But it's cool that it's 400 years they've been doing the same thing. The plot of Frederic Emile straddles the Grand Crus Osterberg and Geisberg in Ribouville, overlooking the vineyard. The plot has marl calcaro sandstone, southeast exposure, steep slopes, and vine age 55 plus. It looks a little bit like Disneyland up here with the great or gingerbread land, maybe is a good way to describe it. The architecture is so 1700s. I don't know which review to read, but I'm going to start on the left-hand side. The wine reveals the great aromatic complexity, citrus, white flowers, and flinty mineral notes. The mouthfeel, it's really what kind of, there's the first thing you're going to notice is the weight of this wine in the glass compared to our German examples. There's more heft, more richness in the glass just by the density factor. Um, and then the minerality here isn't getting through some fresh primary type of fruit. It's usually more complex, and especially in a wine that's got 2016 vintage, you're going to see some more advancement there. Oysters, langoustines, lobsters, grilled fish, white butter sauce, as well as roasted poultry, sweetbreads, chanterelle mushrooms, potato gratin, and vegetables. Vinous went and waxed on for a while about this wine. This is one of those wines that will do that to a wine reviewer. You almost feel like you're not, because you're so privileged to be able to taste this wine, you can't say it in 10 words anymore. You've got to take 100. When I smell this wine, I get pulled in, and it's not that primary fruit. Really decorated by gravelly, rocky, stony type of characteristics. The alcohol is higher, but still restrained, about 13%. I would say a lot of the Alsace wines can get riper than that. An incredible sight. Look at how carved up that it's like different facets of the diamond. We're at $95 for one of the primary Riesling examples on the planet. This really is an important wine, not just for Alsace, but for Riesling. And I've had it at different ages. That fruit is having a hard time getting past some of that minerality, so this is very dry, but so deep and so dense. That fruitiness is still there. It's just kind of quietly waiting for you to explore it and to touch it. And it's just so layered. Just start your stopwatch once you put that in your mouth. 30 seconds later, you're still unpeeling that thing from your mouth. And that's a wow, that's just continuing to go. And now that my mouth, it's finally kind of getting down to this what's left. It's just so pretty and so stated with that minerality. The layers there are insane to get through. That really welcomes some very interesting food opportunities. Alsace, if you've ever been there, the food is legendary. Lots of stews. Um, you know, they're landlocked there. It it's a place where they definitely, played around with aging things in fats and preserving things in fats, and you can really explore some different types of cuisines with this wine. Um, you can certainly go to things like terrines, um, pâtés. Uh, Certainly foie gras would be beautiful with this. Delicious from the first look at the glass to the way it kind of continues to taste it from, well over a minute here. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. And go Dodgers. Oh.